All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be hopping into our first quarterfinals match. Is going to be between BASETRADETV and Schnitzel. Now, the way that this is going to work is this is the first match we're going to be doing. The second match is going to be Puck versus Suppy. Now, they are holding that match. That match is not going to start until we are there to watch it, which is going to be really cool. Now, of course, there are two other quarterfinal matches that are ready. We have Cuddle Bear versus Cyber Kitty. Cyber Kitty also the one who managed to beat Ruff, it seems, in that very first best of one in the very first round. And we also have Abaddon versus Semper. Now, Abaddon is a name that I have at least seen around in brackets, and Abaddon was actually the person who beat Winter. And almost begrudgingly appropriate, we are going to have Winter casting both of those bottom bracket matches. So if you guys want to check out the bottom bracket matches of Semper, Abaddon, or Cuddle Bear versus Cyber Kitty, you guys can check that out over on Winter's StarCraft stream. We're going to be doing the top bracket matches up here in my channel. And yeah, first match again is going to be BASETRADETV versus Schnitzel. A little bit about these players as we get ready to hop into the game. BASETRADETV, Siberian Terran player, is an absolute badass. Has done pretty well. Has been around for such a long time in StarCraft 2, and of course still playing in Legacy of the Void. Schnitzel, we already saw a little bit about him. He's a Terran player, not quite as accomplished as someone like BASETRADETV, but I think that he's definitely impressed, I think, at least me, if not a lot of other people out there, with his continuous aggression. In terms of times that these two players have played against each other, I wouldn't be too surprised if, yeah, they've never played against each other ever in a competitive series. So that really does mean this is going to be the first time these two are facing off against each other. But looks like the game is ready. We're hopping into it. The first map is going to be Dusk Towers. Ladies and gentlemen, our very first quarterfinal match. We'll see you guys in just a little bit. All right, here we are in our first quarterfinals match for the TAW Open. Up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, we have the green Terran player, Give It Up, for the European BASETRADETV. A man who has been around since the beta of StarCraft 2. And his opponent spawned down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, the American blue Terran player that we saw in that last series. Take it with some highly aggressive play. Give it up for Schnitzel. It's our first mirror matchup of the day. I think that we've pretty much just exclusively been watching Terrans versus Zergs. And I will say, I was excited about casting this whole event and everything, but when I looked at the brackets and I looked at all the people that were signed up, I just kept looking and thinking, there's only like 5 or 6 Protoss players or people in this bracket that I know are Protoss players. But there were a lot of Terrans and a lot of Zergs. And I think Puck is actually potentially the last Protoss that's left in the bracket right now. I'm not actually too familiar with, I think, every player that's on the bottom half of the bracket. Like, for example, I'm not sure what race Abaddon plays. But I know Semper, BASETRADETV, Schnitzel, we had Suppy. Like, all of these guys are Terrans or Zerg players. And as a Protoss player, it makes me a little bit sadder. But of course, still going to lead to some pretty cool games. We have a little bit of a skirmish between these two SCVs. Looks like BASETRADETV falling a little bit further behind as the Reaper comes in and starts adding in that double team damage. A little bit unfair, he says, but you know what? Doesn't matter. Both these players have their Reapers out and are going to get ready to scout around. BASETRADETV actually looking around for that SCV. Sometimes those SCVs like to be a little bit tricky. They like to move around this bottom right-hand side because you say, oh, I know my opponent's going to make that Reaper. So I'm going to hide them in the corner, wait until the time where the Reaper normally would be moving out across the map, and that's when I'm going to move in to scout around and see, is my opponent building a reactor on their barracks? Can I see a factory being swapped on? Like, what is going on? Do I see a third command center? But it seems like BASETRADETV maybe a little bit too smart for that, but also at the same time, we don't really see that hidden SCV coming out from Schnitzel. Schnitzel is just sitting back at home with two Reapers. No, one Reaper. One Reaper and 2 Marines. He's got a little guarding squadron over here, the patrol squad. And this should be enough to take on the 2 Reapers if they are well positioned, but it doesn't seem like they are going to be, as the 2 Reapers are easily able to make it into the main base, able to throw out that grenade and at least push back that Reaper and continue to regenerate some of that health. You have to remember, Reapers do regenerate health if they don't take damage for a short period of time. It's very similar to the Protoss shields. But man, I'm really liking the micro over here from BASETRADETV. It looks like he is finally getting it cleaned up though, and well, Schnitzel doesn't really end up losing anything over there. In fact, he's had a perfect game so far, a completely perfect game, ladies and gentlemen. He has not taken any losses. Well, I guess he's taken some damage. I mean, the damage on the Reaper is going to regenerate, but the damage on the Marines basically does make this not a perfect if this was a fighting game. Medevac going to be coming out over here for Schnitzel, though. He rushed up to that starport pretty gosh darn quickly. And you can see that comparatively, BASETRADETV went for that faster 3rd CC. Already has that turning into an orbital command. Is going to have a nice little economic advantage. Whereas Schnitzel is really going to be looking to try and get a little bit of damage done earlier on with that faster starport. Potentially going to try and get out a Banshee or fast Liberator. One of the two would definitely make sense. Liberators, not too uncommon, but we do have the Banshee coming out. And a scan goes down from BASETRADETV. He knows exactly what's up. He sees the tech lab on the starport, and you can probably anticipate, okay, yeah, most likely should be preparing for a Banshee. And the big thing is that means that he should know, okay, I need to start thinking about either getting an engineering bay down so I can build some missile turrets, or I have to at least make sure my Viking is well positioned. I have enough energy on my command centers to scan. But here we go. We do have a drop in the natural expansion. Already getting a little bit of damage done. 5 workers killed so far. Killing off a lot of these Marines as well. But the Hellions are able to clean things up as well as kill off the Medevac. So Schnitzel's harassment not really working out so well. Oh, really, really cool over there. You might be wondering, why is BASETRADETV attacking his own refinery? Well, this situation was there was a Widow Mine over here, and you can see that Widow Mine did end up losing its life. And the way that you can deal with that, if you don't have detection and you don't want to use a scan, you can just use your own splash damage. You attack one of your own buildings, and it'll splash damage the Widow Mine. It's a really, really cool technique that we don't actually get to see used too often. Banshee's going to be coming in over here from Schnitzel, though. And remember, the 3rd expansion, the 3rd command center is so much further behind for Schnitzel. He has to do some damage. He has to do a little bit of damage to kind of equalize the situation. But Raven has already been made. I believe the Raven was made for BASETRADETV. It's not going to be in position for this Banshee, but he's going to have the detection without having to throw down any scans. Cloak again was researched, so this was a bit of an investment over here for Schnitzel. And he's trying to target fire down some of these SCVs. He's able to get a couple of them. Already up to potentially 4 kills. As we now see 4 kills out. 5 kills before he has to retreat on out, as an auto turret was actually forced out as well. And wow, Schnitzel is doing a pretty good job. He is going to eventually just end up losing this Banshee because the Raven and the Viking are going to be able to chase it down to the end of the earth. No way he could escape at that point. But I would actually say Schnitzel did a fairly decent amount of damage. He's got a nice little worker lead. He's continuing to do damage with the 2nd Banshee. That's already up to 4 kills right now. Now moving into that natural expansion. And again, there's no missile turrets over here. It's really only those 2 Vikings. But this Banshee is going to be able to focus fire down more workers before the Vikings are able to clean that up. The big scare over here would be that, hey, Schnitzel, you've invested a lot into getting that damage done. Sure, you have more workers, but did you lose too much of your army and the investment that you would have been making into that army by losing those Banshees? And I would actually argue no. You take a look, and Schnitzel right now is actually sitting at 16 Marines. He's got 3 siege tanks out, which is more than his opponent BASETRADETV. And yes, the Hellions are going to be a pretty big part of the force for BASETRADETV. He is going for a very mech-oriented style. He's got a lot of these factories out, so he's going to be going for, again, a big, scary army that isn't necessarily as mobile, but it should win a direct engagement, even if it has a hard time dealing with a very scrappy army like a Bioforce that Schnitzel has. I think Schnitzel is actually sitting okay. He's got enough units out, and I think the biggest thing is going to be the fact that by making those Banshees, he didn't really have a lot of medevacs out, so he didn't really have these units that are going to be healing up his army, that are going to be able to allow him to put on additional pressure with medevac drops and all those kinds of things. So that's sort of the biggest loss that Schnitzel has taken so far by going for that Banshee opening. Oh, really big Widow Mine hit over here, as it does kill off two Marines and actually softens up a bit of the army. So gonna have to heal that up. But the Hellions over here gonna potentially be able to get a lot of damage done. A supply depot getting burnt down to the ground, not something that you see too often. But Siege Tank sieging up in a really nice spot, getting a couple of pot shots off on the Hellions, softening them up, or at least taking some of them out. And this army for Schnitzel is out for blood right now. He is chasing them down to the ends of the earth. BASETRADETV, got to be careful. If he moves up the ramp, then he's going to be in a really awkward spot, but he's just trying to get as many pot shots off with the Hellions as possible. A lot of this Marine force is clumping up, and that does mean they take a lot of extra damage to those Hellions. Air superiority does also go to BASETRADETV, so his siege tanks are going to be able to get the first shots off. They're also going to be able to take out some of the medevacs. Medevac does manage to drop off of one of the siege tanks, but I think the other one does go down. Loaded up the siege tank and the leak in medevac. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Maybe a bit of a misclick, but well, actually no, he has enough siege tanks that he has to have every single one of his medevacs loaded up. It's going to be a really dangerous spot because once he unloads these siege tanks, once he engages, he cannot unload, and there we go. We already end up seeing two of the medevacs going down. One of the medevacs had a siege tank still loaded up inside of it, and look at this, doesn't have the high gravage anymore. BASETRADETV is going to be able to kill off this other siege tank or get it very low on health with those auto turrets, cleans it up with the last siege tank shot, and suddenly Schnitzel's army is looking devastated. There's not anything left of this. Where is the punch? Is just the Marines, but the Marines are going to be dealt with just these pure Hellbats. The Hellbats are going to be tear through those Marines, especially with a Blue Flame upgrade researched. 1-1 is finished up for Schnitzel. That is one kind of nice thing going for him, but guess what? 1-1 is also finishing up right now for BASETRADETV, and that 1-1 hurts a little bit more than Schnitzel's. Those siege tanks with the additional damage are going to be pretty difficult to deal with. Schnitzel is trying to just overpower his opponent with the economy behind this, but look at this. Oh, tries to move into the siege tank line, suffers some significant losses. And with the Liberators also coming out for BASETRADETV, he's got such air superiority. There's nothing that Schnitzel can really do about that unless he just gets his Marines directly underneath the entire Air Force. There's not anything that's going to be able to keep these medevacs alive in this situation because the Vikings just have way too much range over the Marines. The Marines are not going to be able to really effectively zone out BASETRADETV, and I think that's exactly what BASETRADETV is counting on. This, wow, I haven't seen this upgrade in a really long time. Increases the damage of Raven auto turrets and Seeker missiles. It is called the Shrapnel Shells, and it still has a different upgrade logo on the production tab than from the actual in-game thing, so that's kind of funny. That's actually just a testament to how few times we've actually seen this upgrade research, that it's still just like a bug in the overlay, that we don't actually have the correct overlay icon for it. Oh, we even got like Terran armor being a research. We got Civic Reactor for the extra Raven energy. I mean, BASETRADETV is just saying like, let me spend my money somehow because I'm getting close to maxed out. I gotta do something with it. Looks like Liberator able to do a little bit of damage, at least deny some mining, able to get up to 2 or 3 kills. Nothing devastating. There's not exactly a whole lot of workers back over here in the National Expansion either. Most of them have transferred over to that 4th expansion or the 5th expansion that has now been established. Or soon to be established 5th expansion. But you can see, even this expansion is a little bit oversaturated. A lot of those workers just being pulled off the line to try and avoid being killed by those Liberators. But you know, Schnitzel has been able to macro out a fairly decently sized force. He's up to 2 upgrades, starting up his +3 armor upgrade. Maybe he's going to start thinking about that +3 weapons upgrade pretty soon. So he's actually leading in that upgrade, in the upgrade war. But right now, it really is going to be a lot about where the army engagement happens, because that siege tank count for BASETRADETV is brutal, as well as even just the air superiority. You can see, if BASETRADETV ever gets a little bit further in range of Schnitzel's siege tanks, then he's going to be the one firing off on Schnitzel, and Schnitzel is going to have to burn scans to get vision of his opponent's siege tanks. So for his siege tanks to fire, he needs to basically invest part of his economy into it. Oh, missile turrets, or sorry, seeker missiles going down. Some of the bio forces trying to get some shots off. Not able to get anything devastating out, but auto turrets going to be able to clean up these siege tanks. These are upgraded auto turrets. They do 21 damage. Not something I get to say very often. Upgraded auto turrets. Well, but I mean, they work out nonetheless. Oh man, and it is really a battle of vision right now because both these players know how important the angle of engagement is going to be. Making sure that your siege tanks are sieged up if you're BASETRADETV, making sure that you can pounce on your opponent's army with a big stim and stutter step forward if you're Schnitzel. Maybe even going for a bit of drop harassment really wouldn't be the worst idea over here for Schnitzel. I would love to see him load up 1 or 2 medevacs and go straight over to that main base, but look at this. BASETRADETV is prepared for it with a giant missile turret line of China. Oh, really weird angle over here, though. I'm not sure who's getting cut out, if Schnitzel's getting cut out of his expansions or if he's actually entrapping BASETRADETV. But BASETRADETV sieges up. He's going to be able to easily kill off this expansion. It's turning into a weird base trade. And base trades with these kinds of army compositions are so strange because look at this. BASETRADETV says, well, I can kind of kill off your stuff faster, but your army is more mobile, and this is TVT. This means that you can lift off your barracks or command centers. Having a mobile army really does add a lot of value. And look at this. This entire army is going to move into the main base. It can take out a lot of the production facilities. And as soon as this army gets over here, as long as he takes care of the missile turrets, he needs to kill off these missile turrets. He can then load up his army into the medevacs and escape out. But if he doesn't take care of the missile turrets, he is not going to have an escape path. Oh no, I think that Schnitzel might be trapped over here. He doesn't have a way out. He's gonna end up losing a majority of this army. He's trading out for, I guess, a lot of production over here. So it's not the worst trade in the world. He's gonna be able to macro up an army behind this. Is this going to be cost effective? Is this gonna be worth it? He continues to stutter step back. He's going to the natural expansion. He's gonna be able to take out some of these workers, maybe kill off the missile turrets, maybe kill off the orbital commands, and say, hey, some of the upgrades are being researched over here. This is definitely not the worst thing in the world to be going after, as he does get a cancel off on some of these upgrades, killing off some more of the missile turrets. And again, he's macroing up another army behind this. That's what's so important. He's buying himself time by going so deep far back into BASETRADETV's natural expansion. He's exploiting the immobility of the sieged, the mech army. Now again, BASETRADETV, he needs a bit of time to replenish his army supply. It can be bigger than his opponent, that's fine, but he needs to have much more than just a bigger army. He needs to have an army that's able to stand up to BASETRADETV's army or buy more time, one of the two. And right now, I would say he's really close to having a big enough army, but not quite there. The Vikings are also going to be able to deal with these liberators that it looks like Schnitzel has been able to eke out, but I'm not sure if he has enough. His liberators can deal with Vikings okay, but I mean, when they're all sieged up and the Viking count has that range advantage, it is pretty difficult to deal with. Already seen 2 of those liberators getting picked off, and those liberators, they are units that take quite a bit of time to build up. Like quite a long build time. Vikings actually starting to be produced over here for Schnitzel. And man, this is just game number 1. We're already sitting at the 16-minute mark. And I really like the decision for BASETRADETV to almost reactively say, like, let's throw down all of the sensor towers, because I'm not letting you catch me off guard again. I'm not letting you turn this into a weird base trade situation, because he definitely did not get the better end of that trade. Even after killing off the entirety of the army for Schnitzel, Schnitzel's almost maxed out again. He has more than just bought enough time for his army to be replenished. BASETRADETV, on the other hand, still looking for any kind of trades they can get. He needs cost-efficient trades. That's what this army is all about. Throwing down some of those point defense drones, going to be able to soak up a lot of the shots that Schnitzel was trying to fire off with his Vikings. Even the Marines and Marauders. Going to be able to kill off that last remaining siege tank as well. That's a nice win. And hey, being able to reestablish these expansions, that's also going to be really important for BASETRADETV. Because Schnitzel, I mean, he is going to eventually, if this goes to it, I mean, we're still a bit further away from it, but Schnitzel will mine out first. That is just a reality, because he's taking expansions a lot faster. You take a look at how resources lost have been going. Schnitzel has lost a lot more of his resources. He has not been nearly as cost effective. But he's also been taking expansions a lot faster, so that's why it's okay. The problem is he really only has 3 more expansions he can actually effectively take. And while I say this, knowing that, hey, that's still going to be a solid 10 or so minutes out, we're really not at that stage yet. It could very well get to that stage. You can see BASETRADETV, he's only just now starting to take some of those other expansions. And he's going to have more expansions for a longer period of time that he can effectively mine from. Schnitzel is posing. He's poised to try and get a little bit of damage done. And once again, just saying, well, if you're expanding further and further out, then you're going to be more and more vulnerable. Oh my god, the Hunter Seeker missiles are going to go down on top of some of these Vikings. Last minute pullouts from Schnitzel, but Schnitzel is still not taking the best of engagements. He does take down the Planetary Fortress, but at the cost of his entire army. He doesn't kill off that much of BASETRADETV's army. He takes out a decent chunk, but was it enough? Does he have the production to replenish it in time? Can BASETRADETV just move across the map? He might be able to. He might be able to do some counter damage immediately. Losing that one expansion, it's annoying, but it's not the end of the world for BASETRADETV. He has another expansion ready to be established, and now BASETRADETV can move across the map. He can try and take out all of these SCVs. He can take out this command center and try and just stop Schnitzel from getting up the army that he needs. Schnitzel needs time, and if BASETRADETV doesn't give it to him, well, then this game might be over. SCV is almost being sacrificed at this point, as he's just trying to do whatever he can to buy time, but the army goes down. Jiju, well played, gets called, and BASETRADETV with the mech army is gonna walk out victorious in game number 1. Again, that was just game number 1 in a best of 3 for our quarterfinals match. So with that, we're going to move on to the game number 2. And again, the winner of this plays off versus the winner of the next series we'll be checking out, which is Puck versus Suppy. And that's going to be, again, happening in the round of 8, the quarterfinal match. If you want to check out Cuddle versus Cyber Kitty, that is happening over on Winter StarCraft stream, which I believe is just twitch.tv/WinterSC. But yeah, we're going to find out what the next map is going to be. I think all the map videos were done earlier. Let me see if I can scroll up and find it. Well, actually, no. I don't think they did pick game number 2. All right. But it looks like it's going to be Frozen Temple. That is the map choice. All right. Well, we are getting ready to get started. Once again, no delay, ladies and gentlemen. We're hopping into game number 2 for our quarterfinals match. Be sure, again, during all the map intros or any breaks or whatever, during the opening periods, go check out TAW.net. They are looking for more members. That's a lot of the reason why they're trying to do this kind of open tournament that's available for anyone to join. They want to get their name out there a little bit more. And again, it looks like a really cool organization. It's all about just having a big community together that can play StarCraft and enjoy it together. I mean, what's not to love about that? But again, do check it out, TAW.net. You can register and sign up for the StarCraft division, or, you know, Overwatch or whatever other games that you like and are interested in playing. But ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you guys in a little bit on Frozen Temple for game number 2. All right, here we are, game number 2, ladies and gentlemen, for the quarterfinals match. As we spawn down here on the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the pink Terran player. I think that he's already changed up the color. We have the European. It's BASETRADETV. Oh, and it looks like I had the score wrong on the previous scene. But up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Terran player. the American, and looking for a bit of a comeback. Give it up for Schnitzel. I'll make sure that I have the overlay correct for when we get back out of game. But all right. In that last TVT, we saw a bit of a combating of two different styles. There's the mech style and there's the bio style. Now, again, we saw the bio player wants to be the hyper mobile force that's trying to pick apart the mech player, who has the big standing army that's super duper scary, but really not super agile. So what we are going to want to see in this game is, does BASETRADETV go for that meching style once again? I feel like Schnitzel probably more likely than not to stick around on the bio style, at least from what I remember of his play style back in the day when I used to watch a lot more of him. He really did strike me as a player, and I mean, you kind of see it in his play style. He likes to be really, really aggressive. He loves to be continuously aggressive and never give his opponent too much of a breathing space. And that is sort of what bio is about, especially in bio versus mech. But I guess it's more of a question, does BASETRADETV, again, go for mech, or does he mix it up with bio? So far, he's situating himself to potentially open up with either one as he goes up to a fast 1-1-1 opening. Really delaying that command center for quite a bit of time, so not going for that natural command center. Not really looking to expand anytime immediately soon, but he's also going to be beating out Schnitzel in tech, so kind of a role reversal from game number 1, where we had Schnitzel trying to tech up very, very quickly. And BASETRADETV went for the very fast 3cc build. And now we have the same sort of thing on the opposite ends, where I think BASETRADETV is going to need to get a little bit of damage done to equalize the fact that his command center is so much later in his opponents. We'll see what he decides to do. He is going to be going for the medevac very quickly, as well as Hellions. So I guess a Hellion drop, as well as those Reapers just moving it at the front. Going to see what damage they can do. Now again, the orbital command for Schnitzel is not landed on the low ground. So Schnitzel, who by the way, saw that there was in fact the fast starport in the factory and everything. So he knows, okay, I know with how fast you get out that starport that you did not go for a command center. So what that means is that he knows all he has to do is just defend and continue to make more workers. Make use of this command center, and he can eventually establish a natural. He doesn't need to make this defense harder for himself right now. We do finally have command center being started up for BASETRADETV much later on, but you can already see the worker differential is already at 4 or 5 workers in difference, as well as the mules also coming out, of course, from that extra command center. Reapers move into the main base. We do have a big army advantage over here, I would say, for Schnitzel, but nice positioning from BASETRADETV makes this look a little bit more even than you would think. Medevac does go down to the Viking, and it looks like Schnitzel is able to corner this army. Oh, big Reaper grenades going off, but at the end of the day, 3 workers killed. I mean, definitely not too bad. I would say, though, that now Schnitzel feels pretty good about landing that orbital command, can now effectively start mining from it. Of course, the tech lab coming up behind this, and Banshee's also coming out as well. BASETRADETV gonna look to try and put on the pressure. See what he can make happen. As the army for Schnitzel really is starting to lean toward a lot of those Hellions, getting out those siege tanks. And because he's building this reactor on the barracks, he's not actually going to have that many Marines for when that first Banshee pops out and makes its way across the map. Those Marines, I mean, yes, this is enough Marines to maybe take on a Banshee directly head on, but it's not really necessarily enough to take on a Banshee split up between the main base and the natural expansion if you just split up your Marines. These Marines also don't have stim or combat shields or anything of the sort because they don't really have a tech lab on that barrack. So, oh boy, he's going to be really far out of position for this. And in fact, he's not even making more Marines. This could be a really devastating situation over here for Schnitzel. He's making a Liberator. That is going to be some form of anti-air he has available to him. But is it going to be enough? At the same time, BASETRADETV has a couple of Hellions back at home, but really not a whole lot to defend himself. So this is going to turn into a really weird, let's see who can do more damage to the other person first. 5 kills already available on this Banshee. A Viking also out. When is Cloak going to go down? There it is, avoiding some of those Viking shots as well. Is going to continue to peck away at some of these units. At the same time, Schnitzel trying to equalize the damage. The siege tank is sieged up, but some of these SCVs doing a great job soaking up those hits, and the Banshee comes out. It's going to be able to clean up all of these Marines. I think that BASETRADETV is already looking to be in a great spot to potentially take game number 2. Look at this. Banshee does get picked off, but it goes down while taking down a lot of workers with him. And he defends very, very well over at his own front. 24 workers killed to the 2 of Schnitzel. Schnitzel is sitting in a very, very dire and desperate situation. This third command center, I mean, it's going to be very important, but guess what? There's already another third CC started up for BASETRADETV. It's a little bit further behind, but I mean, is it 13, 14 workers behind? Another Banshee makes its way out and just saying, you know what? I actually really like this decision because it's going to force out more scans. What is Schnitzel hurting on right now? He's hurting on mules. His economy is hurting right now. And by forcing out scans, that means that that's less energy available to throw down mules that will be able to mine a little bit better. Taking out more of these workers as well is going to be great. Prioritizing those over any Marines or anything else. Moves out of the scan range. Guess what? You're going to have to scan once again if you want to be able to take that out. And there is another scan going to be available soon, but it's not available right now. A second Banshee already over here. And this Banshee is going to be able to make it. Oh, no, it doesn't make it out of the scan range. It stops at the last second. This Banshee, though, is still alive. I think this just might already be game. 24 workers to 44. There is a bit of a Liberator harassment coming on. And, hey, 7 workers killed. Is this going to be enough for Schnitzel? I mean, the Viking is already doing a good job cleaning this up, though. BASETRADETV not going to allow it to spiral too far out of control, although it already did a lot of damage. I mean, you might kind of say, well, Schnitzel still looks like he's kind of in this. He has been killing off a lot of these Banshees from BASETRADETV, but look at this. BASETRADETV has up all these Hellions. He's gotten up his factories again. He's starting to get into that mech mode. And he's going to have the more cost-efficient army once again. In the meanwhile, Schnitzel has a smaller army and it's less cost-effective. How do you make that work? You need godlike harassment and potential to just out-micro your opponent. But that's not going to happen. BASETRADETV takes it for Europe, takes the series 2-0. Well, BASETRADETV moves on to the round of 4, also known as the semifinals.